In the small Texan town of Whispering Pines, life was typically quiet and uneventful. However, a shadowy legend loomed over the town, one that sent shivers down the spines of its residents. The tale of Mad Maddie, the deranged waitress who haunted the town's darkest corners. Mad Maddie was the nickname bestowed upon a waitress named Maddie Kane, who had once worked at the now-closed diner on the outskirts of town. Maddie had always been a bit peculiar, known for her unsettling laughter and unsettlingly bright blue eyes that seemed to pierce through one's very soul. The stories about her had grown into a dark legend. They said that after the diner's closing, she'd taken up residence in the decaying shack near the woods. There, she would emerge in the dead of night, chasing anyone who dared venture into their own backyards. Those unfortunate enough to cross her path would experience an unending nightmare of terror. Most dismiss the tales as mere folklore, the ramblings of superstitious minds. However, the truth about Mad Maddie was far darker and more twisted than anyone could have imagined. It was on a hot summer's night that Sarah and Jake, a young couple who had recently moved to Whispering Pines, first encountered the chilling legend. They were excited about their new home, a cozy little house surrounded by a spacious backyard. The move had been a fresh start, a chance to escape the fast-paced city life, and they reveled in the idea of quiet evenings under the Texan stars. As the sun set, casting long shadows across their backyard, they lit a campfire and gazed at the night sky. The flickering flames danced, and the quiet chirping of crickets filled the air. It was an idyllic evening, the kind they had longed for. But as the night wore on, a sense of unease crept over them. The stars above seemed to lose their luster, and the gentle rustling of the wind through the trees took on an eerie tone. Sarah was the first to notice something unusual. "Did you hear that?" she whispered to Jake. He strained his ears. At first, he heard only the subtle sounds of the night, but then a faint, eerie laughter reached his ears. It was as if someone was hiding in the shadows, giggling at their expense. Unease turned to fear as they saw a figure emerge from the woods at the edge of their backyard. The dim moonlight revealed the silhouette of a woman, her long, tangled hair and tattered clothing giving her an otherworldly appearance. The laughter grew louder, a manic and unsettling sound that sent shivers down their spines. The woman approached them, her eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. It was the eyes that struck terror into their hearts, for they recognized those piercing blue orbs. Mad Maddie had found them. Sarah and Jake leaped to their feet, their hearts pounding with fear. They had heard the stories, but they had never truly believed them. Now, as Maddie drew nearer, her laughter echoing in the night, they understood the chilling truth. They ran toward the house, their footsteps heavy with dread. Maddie pursued them, her laughter turning into haunting cries. The night seemed to stretch on endlessly as they raced to reach the safety of their home. They managed to reach their house, slamming the door shut behind them. Gasping for breath, they leaned against the door, their hearts still racing. They could hear Maddie's voice outside, a cacophony of torment. "We need to call the police," Jake urged, reaching for his phone. But as he dialed 911, they heard a chilling whisper on the other end of the line. "You can't escape me?" The call dropped, leaving them in horrified silence. It was as if Maddie's malevolent presence had invaded their very technology. Desperation set in as they realized that there was no one to call for help. The police wouldn't arrive in time, and they were alone in their house with the deranged waitress who haunted their backyard. As they huddled in the darkness, Maddie's laughter continued to echo outside. It seemed to come from all directions, as though she had multiplied into a legion of tormentors. The walls of their home could not shield them from the relentless onslaught of her madness. Hours passed, each one more agonizing than the last. Maddie's laughter never ceased, a never-ending nightmare that threatened to break their sanity. They whispered to each other in hushed voices, trying to come up with a plan to escape this living nightmare. Their only chance was to confront Maddie and put an end to her reign of terror. With trembling hands, they armed themselves with kitchen knives and braced for what lay outside. When they finally ventured back into the backyard, the night was eerily silent. Maddie was nowhere to be seen. They cautiously explored the area, their flashlights revealing only the stillness of the Texan night. But as they reached the edge of the woods, the silence was shattered by a sudden burst of laughter. Maddie materialized before them, her eyes gleaming with madness. She circled them, her laughter growing louder and more maniacal with each passing moment. Sarah and Jake realized that they were trapped in a never-ending cycle of torment. Maddie would pursue them relentlessly, and there was no escape from her relentless madness. Days turned into weeks as Sarah and Jake were trapped in their own personal hell. They had tried to flee Whispering Pines, but Maddie's presence seemed to follow them, her laughter echoing through the small Texan town. The relentless pursuit had driven them to the brink of madness. They hardly slept, their nights filled with the torment of Maddie's laughter. They became gaunt and disheveled, their fear etched into every line of their faces. Their once happy home had become a prison, and they were its tormented inmates. The shadow of Maddie loomed over them, her presence an unending nightmare. With each passing day, they descended deeper into madness. Sarah began to hear whispers in the walls, voices that seemed to speak to her in the dead of night. Jake would wake in a cold sweat, convinced that Maddie was watching them from the darkness outside. Their torment had consumed them, and they longed for an end to the nightmare that had become their lives. It was a nightmare that had no escape, a relentless chase through the shadows of their own minds. In their darkest moments, they began to doubt their own reality. The line between the real world and the nightmare had blurred, and they questioned whether they were truly alive or trapped in a never-ending dream. And still, Maddie's laughter echoed through their lives, a haunting reminder of the torment they could not escape. The small Texan town of Whispering Pines had become their prison, and they were its captive souls. As the days turned into months, they knew that they would never be free from Maddie's relentless pursuit. Their lives had become a never-ending nightmare, a chilling tale of a waitress turned tormentor, and they were forever trapped in the shadow of her madness. Whispering Pines had become a town of terrors, and Sarah and Jake were its tormented inhabitants. Their existence was a living nightmare, a chilling reminder of the horrors that could befall anyone who dared to cross the path of Mad Maddie. Sarah and Jake's existence had become an unending nightmare. They were trapped in a never-ending chase, pursued relentlessly by the deranged waitress, Mad Maddie. Their lives had descended into madness, their sanity slipping away with each passing day. The small Texan town of Whispering Pines had transformed into a prison of fear, and they were its unwilling inmates. The relentless laughter of Maddie haunted their every moment, a chilling reminder of the torment they could not escape. Their home, once a place of warmth and comfort, had become a fortress of dread. Every night, they barricaded themselves in, desperately trying to shut out the laughter that seemed to seep through the very walls. Their hope of escape had long since withered, leaving them to question the nature of their reality. They could no longer distinguish between dreams and waking life, their minds trapped in a never-ending cycle of terror. In their darkest moments, they considered drastic measures to end their suffering. They contemplated leaving Whispering Pines, but it seemed that Maddie's presence followed them, her haunting laughter echoing through the town. As their torment continued, their spirits grew weaker. They were no longer the vibrant and hopeful couple who had moved to Whispering Pines in search of a quiet life. Instead, they were broken souls, trapped in a nightmarish existence. The relentless pursuit of Mad Maddie had driven them to the brink of madness. They had become gaunt and disheveled, their lives a shadow of what they had once been. In the end, it was their own desperation that led to a fateful decision. One night, As Maddie's laughter echoed through the darkness, they made a pact to end their suffering together. They knew that they could never escape Maddie's relentless chase, but they could find solace in the knowledge that their torment would come to an end. As they held each other in their final moments, Maddie's laughter grew louder, a chilling accompaniment to their final act. In the small Texan town of Whispering Pines, their story became a dark legend, a chilling reminder of the terrors that lurked in the shadows. The tale of Mad Maddie and the tormented couple would forever haunt the town, a grim testament to the horrors that could befall those who dared to cross her path. And as the years passed, the legend of Mad Maddie would continue to echo through the town, a ghostly presence that refused to fade. The small Texan town of Whispering Pines would forever be haunted by the chilling tale of the waitress who chased shadows, a tale of madness and despair that could never truly be escaped.